Hey everyone, so today we are in Harrogate with the lovely Mike Riley. Mike Riley is a bit of a legend in the coffee industry, really, in the UK.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
I think a lot of the coffee roasters and general coffee professionals around the UK and European wide know at least of you and your work that you've done. But Mike is I think the only UK Q grade instructor.
Yeah, at this time I am.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So we're going to kind of talk about Q grade and what it's all about and stuff. So to begin with, like, how did you get to this point? What's got you here?
Yeah, well, like you say, I've actually been in coffee a long time. I think it's 32 years now.
Wow.
So I came from a food background. I wanted to be a chef, but actually, along the way, my way into the food industry was through tea and coffee, actually, Taylor's of Harrogate. That's the business I stayed at for 25 years, which is incredible, I know. Yeah. And in that time I worked in quality, in buying. I was head of coffee for 20 years. And during that time I became a Q grader. I also did some qualifications around social auditing and the whole ethical side of coffee procurement. Then I left there about just under 10 years ago now and set up the specialty division of Falcon Coffee, so Falcon Specialty. Yeah. And that's what's been keeping me busy for the last sort of 8-9 years. Wow. And like you said, getting to know a lot of people around Europe. And during that time, as I decided to go part-time at Falcon Specialty and really wanted to focus on Q grader, because I think that's something that's really important to the industry.
Yeah, definitely. What is, like, for people that don't know, what is Q grader and why is it so important? Yeah,
the thing about Q is Q grade is an international language of coffee quality. So, but what do I mean by that? Essentially, right, if you take a scenario, it's a scenario I come up with a lot, but if you had a coffee farmer talking to an importer, so a coffee farmer from Brazil who was talking to Falcon Coffees about a coffee that they want to sell, and we've both cupped it. They've cupped it in Brazil, we've cupped it in our head office in Lewis, and now we're going to have a conversation about the coffee. Now let's say that farmer had roasted it to protocol, so roasted it to perfection, a little after first cracks and development, and let's say in the same scenario, I'd roasted it in our office and I sort of pushed it towards second crack, it was quite dark. Then we start to have a conversation about that coffee. And of course, it goes without saying that what the farmer cupper is coming up with and what myself as a cupper has found in that coffee are totally different things. He's got some nice sort of vibrant notes, a little bit of orange coming through, maybe a bit of chocolate and nuttiness and things. I'm talking about dark chocolate, lots of body, no acidity. Why? It's the same coffee. We've roasted the same coffee, but I've roasted it a totally different way. And roasting, of course, is only one area, is only one of many protocols that if we're going to have a sensible conversation about that coffee, that we have to kind of adhere to. So what I mean by that, I think things like, water, the type of water that we use for coffee, because water has such an impact on the flavour of coffee, hard water, soft water, and the difference is so significant. And then the water to coffee ratio, the way we brew that coffee, the time that we brew the coffee for, the way that we stir and the way we skim, and that's all before we even start cupping the coffee. That includes dry fragrance, breaking the crust, our thoughts on aroma, and then Q grader through the scoring sheet has this way of giving a numerical value to coffee. So of course, that a specialty coffee begins at a score of 80 out of potential 100. So any coffees below 80 is not specialty. Yeah. 80 and above is specialty. And so we actually break that down by different attributes. So Q allows you to look at the fragrance and aroma. It allows you then to consider flavour, aftertaste, acidity, body, balance. It makes you consider the you know, whether the cups are clean, so we always cup 5 coffees, and uniform, and have sweetness, and then we give an overall score. And through doing that, by putting all those, giving those 10 attributes 10 points each, we get a score of 100.
Cool. And then, so like you were saying with the scoring, pretty much anybody who can taste coffee can use an SCA sheet and score coffee.
Yeah.
So how does that differ to somebody just off the street who's been in the industry for a few years? He can score a coffee at 86, but a Q grader, they come along and score the coffee differently.
Yeah.
What value does that give the coffee being scored from a Q grader?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're right. I mean, one of the things, actually, to become a Q grader, I always say to people, you should have probably been cupping for 2, maybe 3 years. You need that experience.
Yeah.
To go in cold would almost be impossible. And it means that, you know, through that you get a kind of calibration, because when you're on a Q grader course, you've got a bunch of experienced coffee cuppers. Might be the 2-3 year minimum that I was just mentioning there, or it could be people who've been in the industry 10 years or more, but you've got experience. And then when people are coming together and sharing their findings, we get a calibration process, because the dominant view tends to be the view that is correct. So let's say we were tasting a Kenyan coffee and sharing our findings as a group on that coffee, and it's a really good Kenyan. It's highly likely that through the experience of the group, that people are going to find high acidity in that coffee. They're going to find beautiful, vibrant, complex flavours. And so that therein lies the difference. During the Q grader course, the first 3 days are about training and calibration and bringing that group together. So if anybody's on the wings, they didn't realise how great the acidity was in my example here with the Kenyan coffee, they can become calibrated. And then it's straight after that, after 3 days training, it's then into 19 exams. And you've got to pass them all if you want to be a Q grader.
Yeah. Yes, it's quite tough.
It is really tough, and but here's one of the great things about the Q grader course. Let's say you go and do that, and you only pass 16, and there's even an opportunity to do some resits on the actual course. Not all of them, but a lot of them. If you come away with 16, 17 out of 19, the great thing is you can go and do resits, and you can you've got still an opportunity to become a Q grader through the resits. And the great thing is, you know, going back to what we originally said, is that you need this army of cuppers, Q graders around the world to develop this international language of quality speak. And farmers, importers, roasters, and even, you know, enthusiastic customers.
Yeah,
you know, why
definitely. Definitely, the more the merrier.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you've assisted me in running some courses, and I know it's on your to-do list.
Yeah, definitely soon. So what would you kind of say to people like who are thinking about taking the Q grades? You know, what does it take to become a Q grader? Because I know when we have run the courses, there's a hell of a lot of cupping in there, and you can sort of tell after the first couple of days who the more experienced cuppers are, can't you? Yeah.
Well, a number of things. I mean, you know, we've all got different levels of ability naturally, i.e., you know, the amount of taste buds on our tongues, how good our olfactory epitheliums are within our noses. So we're all, you know, in as much as, I don't know, you might be able to run faster than me. I'm sure you can. You know, but actually just naturally we're good, better at different things than other things. So you've got that already, that starting point. You have to have the ability. The other thing, just a lot of experience, and then probably the third is kind of like a dedication to the program, to really believe in what it stands for. And like I say, without it, I don't know how you could have a sensible conversation about quality of coffee, because protocols, and the whole course is run on these SCA protocols. The course is owned and run by CQI, the Coffee Quality Institute, but it takes all of the protocols of SCA. And And without that, it just wouldn't make sense. So yeah, to be a Q grader, you need to be into the program. You need to love cupping and love coffee.
Yeah.
That's kind of a given. And have a certain, natural ability to be able to cup. And I think it would be weird to end up on the course if you didn't have that anyway.
Yeah.
You've got to recognise that you can tell the difference between the great coffees of the world and and the poorer coffees.
Yeah, definitely.
Also to be able to recognise defects. I mean, one of the big things in the industry that we have to look out for when we're buying coffee is not just the great things but the bad things as well. Yes, you've got to be able to recognise the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Definitely. And what sort of advice would you give anybody thinking about taking the Q?
Well, there's a number of things. I mean, it's not a cheap course. It's 6 days. You've got the accommodation, the cost of the course, which is currently around about £1,850. So it's a kind of financially it's a big undertaking, but it's probably the most recognised and kind of desirable qualification. So don't rush into it. Make sure that you've been cupping a few years. And also, I would say to anybody going on the course, don't panic when things aren't going to plan. You can get a lot of tests under your belt, and if you leave the course, like I said earlier, with a few still to take, that's not the end of the world. You can go back and do resits. Yeah, absolutely. And practice. People tend to take elements of the course and practice. They might look at sensory and start doing tests with testing themselves on being able to recognise the difference between sweet, sour and salty and mixes of these things, and that's great practice. Or they might buy a Lemonade Cafe kit, the 36 bottles of scent, common aromas found in coffee, and they may do those things, and that's all good. But if my one piece of advice, or my 3 pieces of advice, is cup. Just cup as much as you can. Cup terrible coffees, cup amazing coffees. And use the SCA form as well. It's there for anybody to print off.
Well, it's interesting you mention cup terrible coffees, because I think like I was saying before, you can tell who the experienced cuppers are. They're the ones who have had experience of commodity coffees and everything in between. And we've had a few people on the last course who even open-handedly said that they've never tasted commodity coffees, and it shows that
it puts them at a disadvantage. So you've got to ring around and go and buy cheap coffees and taste the best with the worst. Exactly. Taste some shit and see how you. And also it's like defects. Sometimes people have only been at the top end of the specialty market. They might not have had experience of things like phenolic or potato cups or fermented and sour flavours and things. How do you get those things? I mean, it's kind of you can't. I think there may be kits out there. If you've come across anything where you can buy kits. Sort
of. There's Flavour Active. Do some sort of things like that. But I haven't seen the actual beans that. Coffees.
But so there are kits you can buy out there. I think the thing is to try and hit on those things naturally. Which is kind of a bit of a lottery. But if you try and get some lower quality samples, really cheap coffees, there's bound to be defects in there. Put on 20 cups and you'll come across a mouldy cup at some point, or a phenolic cup. But practice is the key. Cup.
Definitely. And what would be sort of the benefit to somebody other than having this great qualification? What's the benefit?
No, great question. Yeah, absolutely. It's you're right that it's a qualification, and for a lot of young people in coffee, they might want that on their CV, and they might proudly want that certificate on the wall. So there's nothing wrong with that. But beyond that, I always say, what you learn on the Q Grader course are the things that you can apply to your business. I think in some ways it's a bit sad if you're just focused on having a certificate, even though there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's what can you take from the course and apply to the business that you're working with, or your own business. So if you earned living by protocol, that's the very least you should do. I think actually using the SCA form. I mean, sometimes I come across Q graders who the course demands that every 3 years you recalibrate. You have to take a re-examination, which is only a 1-day course, but to check that you've still got the palate. And you know, the thing about recalibration is, it's crucial that people do that to keep people at a certain level. But what I find sometimes is that people haven't been using the cupping forms in the intervening time,
right?
Which is mad. I think that you can't use it all the time. For quality control, for example, at a roastery, you're not going to Q grade every batch.
Yeah,
but
sure.
certainly when you're buying coffee,
yeah.
when you've got offer samples or deliveries, I think having those records and using the form is crucial. It really is.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. I think that's all I've got question-wise. Is there anything else you want to?
No, I mean, really, I think that the Q, I would just say, is an amazing qualification. Anybody who does the course, they find it kind of hectic and, emotionally demanding. I describe it as a bit of a roller coaster.
Definitely.
you
emotional roller coaster for us.
Yeah, damn right. Running is not the easiest week of the year. I dream Q grader for about a month afterwards, every night, setting things up or marking exams. But it's kind of one of those things. I think it's a bit of a badge of honour in the industry, and it is worth going for.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And we're running a next course down in Marzocco again.
Yeah, in London in
November.
So yeah, looking forward to that one. I don't know if you're going to be joining as the assistant or as a student.
Yeah,
to be decided. Watch this space.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then after that, it's March possibly.
Yeah. We'll run a calibration program probably between those times for those that have got their 3-year calibrations coming up. So we'll do that possibly in London, maybe in Leeds. We'll see, maybe up in Scotland at Coffee Nexus, John Thompson's place. So we're to be decided.
Yeah, wicked. Cool. I think that's everything.
Nice one, Zach. Cheers.
That's cool. Thank you very much for talking to us about it.
Fantastic.
See you next time. Bye.